All right. Good evening or afternoon, whenever it is you're able to watch this. This is the problem with word problems, the name I came up with for my learning object, which is designed to help students use the address module to solve word problems in their math class. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy. I don't know if I mentioned, my name is James Young. I'm currently enrolled in the Masters of Educational Technology program at Central through their online global campus. I'm a math teacher at Mount Pleasant High School, just down the road from Central. And I was originally a math and English major at Alma College, so I taught English for 2 years, and now I'm doing math for my second year as well. Originally from Saginaw, and I have a wife, Patricia, one daughter named Soroya, another baby on the way named TBD, and finally two cats, Jigglypuff and Poliwag. And yes, those are Pokemon. So, a little about me. Now, to talk about this project. When I was first starting it, basically I wasn't sure what problem I wanted to tackle. I teach freshman math for your average to lower students, so there's lots of different problems I could choose. And I talked with one of the teachers who I work really closely with, who teaches mostly older students, and we both realized a common problem that we both have is that the students don't do the word problems that we assign in their homework, which means they don't know how to do them on the test, and it creates a lot of problems where eventually we end up just not assigning them, and the kids don't get that benefit out of it. And we were noticing that kids would do one of three things: watch us do it and kind of learn from us, so they would kind of follow along, but this is like a few A students who are doing that. The next big chunk of students, though, just copies it down so that their homework is incomplete, but really it's not really complete because they just copied. And then, of course, then there's the majority of kids who just ignore it. They kind of sit there and their eyes get glazed over, and that's the end of it. They don't really pay much more attention to it. So, out of annoyance and frustration from us, and also the acknowledgement that the kids weren't getting anything out of these problems and we thought they were valuable, we decided that that'd be something for us both to tackle. So he's doing his own kind of thing to attack it, and I made this video, or this set of videos, this learning object. So for the sake of data, I needed to create data, because I mean, you ask any math teacher and they'll kind of tell you this as kind of a just given fact, but we needed something to back it up. So I got 67 of my Algebra 1 students to anonymously respond to it. All I told them was that this is just me collecting some data for a college class I'm taking, which is kind of exactly what I was doing. And this is what we came up with. Um, the biggest piece of data I got was just their reaction to when they see a word problem in the homework. 21% said they just skip it, and 43% said that they attempt it, but then usually get it wrong. So you're talking about 2/3 of my class are not getting the word problems correct, and that's just too many. They're not getting anything out of that. Um, you know, I got some information about what they do when they skip it or when they try it but don't get it. But I think what was really interesting was the kids who do it and get it correct. There's very few of them who admit to getting it on the first try. The majority of them say it takes at least two. And again, you look and add up the other types of guesses, you're talking about 90, 93% or 92% of the students saying that it takes more than one. So I think that's a valuable piece of information I can share with my other students who are in this majority of the 2/3 who, don't get it, understanding that it doesn't always happen the first time through. So all of that kind of fueled the creation of this goal, which is that 85% of my students will be able to do a word problem, simply put. And I also want them to be able to state it not just numerically, but also verbally. So if they're doing some kind of problem or they need, I don't know, grass seed for a lawn, which is something I had to do over the summer, how much grass seed do they need? Do they need 27 or do they need 27 30-pound bags? That's a lot, but still, the point is they need to be able to state their response in context, which is something they really struggle with. And I think it would help with motivation if they understood what they were actually doing. And so that's why we made that part of the goal. Oh, I guess I can go to present. So, objectives in order to complete that goal, they need to identify the question in the word problem that's actually being asked. That's part of the address module. They need to find a way to model it. It's really helpful if they can draw some sort of a picture or graph it or in some way make it visual for themselves. They also, of course, have to solve the equations that they're going to ultimately have to solve, and then again state that solution um, verbally and algebraically, not just say x equals 7, but the number of bags is 7. So those are what we were hoping they would build into, kind of modeling that. This is the analysis of my goal. So how my learning map works into this, I've actually got it pulled up right here so we can kind of scroll through it. If we start here at the bottom, the first thing they should definitely come in with is the distributive property. Build that into solving 1 and 2 step equations and equations with variables on both sides. And this actually all occurs, this, and this all occurs in the first 4 chapters of, or first 4 sections, excuse me, of chapter 2 in our textbook. So it kind of lines up perfectly there. Then these parts here, these will kind of be covered with the address module. Finally, this is ultimately what I want them to do: state the solution to a word problem involving solving equations, blah, 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 verbally and numerically. And then again, I want 85% of my students to be able to do just that. So there's my learning map, just kind of breaking down exactly what I want to have happen throughout this presentation, or excuse me, throughout as a result of this. My assessments, I'll have formative assessments at the end of each piece of instruction, kind of a check for understanding. That's actually what they're called, just check for understanding assessments. Quick multiple choice questions for them to show me that they do know how to use the address method I'm teaching. A review assessment I have towards the end, which is a game I've kind of created. I'll explain that when we get to it, but it just gives them another opportunity to see how well they're using the tool. And then finally, a summative assessment, which is just 2 word problems that they're ultimately going to have to solve. And I want 85% of them to be able to get both of these right. A confession I should make is I did a bad thing, and that I did not develop my assessments first. I kind of just designed them. So I had a picture in my head of what they were going to be, but I hadn't actually made them. And that did create some problems later on in the design process. So lesson learned for next time I try and implement some instructional design. The strategies and materials that I was going to have to create, I did a handwritten storyboard as per the textbook's recommendations. Probably the single best decision I made in doing this, just taking the time to just draw out on a piece of paper what was going to happen when and how the windows were going to connect to each other. It was the kind of thing I would normally skip, but I saw it in the book and I thought, hey, they probably know what they're talking about. I should try this out. And it was a real lifesaver. Really saved a lot of time for me. After I had that storyboard, then I went through, I created the slideshows and the images that I was going to need, and I did all that in Google Apps. So Google Slides, Google Drive, Google Drawing. That's what I used to create it so I could work on it in multiple places. So final product, this is the website, and I probably should have it loaded up to the home page. It's mpwordproblems.weebly.com. And that'll be loaded in my post if you want to click to it. Just kind of a quick intro page, but they can click begin the lesson. You can see they can skip to any part of it that they want at any time. But it starts off with a kind of draw you in, attention getter, which was one of the things that we read about in the textbook, just having to draw their attention into it. It's just a brief video of me explaining what the address model is, explaining why kids don't do word problems, kind of crack some jokes throughout that. But then there's always a button at the bottom where they can click to move on to the next section. This is the ask part of address. So ask a question, actually figure out what the question is asking you to do. So again, another short video. I think the videos are all between 2 and 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes long. I tried to keep them relatively short so they could, quickly, easily rewatch them again, but also didn't get bogged down listening to me talk. And then here's one of the check for understanding quizzes. So this one's for ask. They can do it right here on the Weebly, or they can follow this link. One problem right now is that the link will open on the same window, so I have to go through and change that setting, just part of like the proofreading process of this as this still keeps getting developed. But again, they get a word problem, they have a question that they're supposed to do, they have to select the best answer. What I was kind of proud of myself for thinking of was if they click on the wrong answer, so the answer here is not A, they click on A is incorrect, and so it sends them to this page and explains to them why the answer is incorrect. So now if they click continue, it actually kicks them back to the beginning and they have to try it again. So they can't actually complete this until they've selected the correct answer. Now in theory it could take them 4 tries, they guess, and check their way to the right answer, but still at least that point they've seen all the feedback and seen the mistakes that they might have made. Reason and explain, this is the part where they have to actually show their work and solve the actual equation. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh no. Well, there's another typo. you caught me. You caught me slipping. This actually should be drawing a diagram. Uh, so it says it right here. Draw a diagram. Here they have to. I give them an example of me drawing a diagram, and then they also here have the actual diagram itself fully drawn up so that they can see what it'll look final product. But I like this little GIF I made using imgflip.com. This just allows them to kind of see it created. Okay, first I drew this, then I drew these, then I draw what comes up over here, and so on. So that was just another me patting myself on the back for an idea that I think really worked out well. And again, I got some good feedback on it from my colleagues. So hopefully, again, as we implement this with more students, we get that same kind of positive feedback from them because they're the ones that matter. For check for understanding, because you can't really check this with a Google form, I just give them a link to Google Drawing so they can use that, or just tell them to write their own on a piece of paper. I give them the problem. I put a little spacer here just so they couldn't easily see the correct, like, I put correct in quotation marks because these drawings can be up to interpretation, but just here's an example for them to look at. Here's what I would have drawn if I was drawing this sort of a diagram. So they can see this and check their work that way. The real reason and explain that shows up here in this video. Again, this is talking about the showing your work, like I started to say earlier. And then again, another check your understanding. Here, what I did was I included images of different student work, and it's all me. I mapped out the common mistakes I see students make with these types of equations, so they have an opportunity to kind of scroll through, see some of the different ones, see what the kid might have done wrong, ultimately pick A, B, C, or D, and then again, same kind of thing. If they pick the wrong one, um, scroll down and submit. It'll say that's incorrect and tell them why, and then kick them back to it until they can finish it. State your solution. This is when they actually have to state what the solution was in the context of the situation. So this is my final video that I give them. Same kind of deal. State your solution. Select an answer. It tells you why it's wrong. It tells you why it's right. You continue and you're all set. Finally, review and assess. This is where they can access the game. That's the review game. So I've got instructions for them here to read through. Play the White Room is the name of the game I came up with. It's a choose your own adventure game. Ankle Writer is a really neat website that lets you write your own choose your own adventure games if you ever read those as a kid. And the premise of my story is that there's a word problem they have to solve or they die. And if they select the wrong answer, they meet some horrible death. But if they select the right answer, they move on to the story, and the goal is to get through the entire story. Hopefully they'll have some fun with that. And then finally is I have my final assessment, which we can't see because I've already submitted and I had to be logged in. But it's basically, like I said, two word problems. They have to come up with a solution, and that's what I'm ultimately grading them on. Place for feedback, and that's pretty much what I have. For implementation, my goal is to first run this with my math support students. It's a smaller class of students who need some extra help, so this will be a good opportunity for me to not only test out the product, but then also for them to get some extra help in something that they really struggle with. Finally, or next, then I will run it with my regular Algebra 1 students, which includes a lot of my math support students, and give them an opportunity to learn from it right before we get into systems of equations, which is a pretty word problem heavy section. So it'll be a good time for them to get this tool. And then finally, I'm going to work with my co-workers and find a way to make this department wide. So talking about changing the problems, copying the site shell, and ultimately enact whatever plan we come up with. So the goal again for this is to be department wide. Now, I'm using Screencast-o-matic, wonderful product, but the free version lets me go to 15 minutes and I'm getting ready to hit my time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. And as I wrap up the evaluation, I'll start that in my next video. Thanks for clicking over twice.